Extract from Salt Water by Andrew Motion. Imagine everything you know stops dead.
Frustrating, isn't it, listening to someone struggling to read? But how frustrating must it be for the reader? This film looks at Meares-Irlen Syndrome, a visual perception disorder in which people experience distortion of printed text and find it difficult to concentrate for long periods of reading and writing.
Meares-Irlen Syndrome consists of perceptual distortion of text and discomfort. The perceptual distortions of text often include illusory movements of the letters, blurring, and usually also a sensation of glare, and that sensation of glare is often associated with discomfort, eye strain and headaches.
When I'm reading, the weight of the page comes into my eyes and it sort of blinds me in a way.
And then all of a sudden my eyes got watery and I got angry with the words and that, and got myself in a real lot of trouble.
Meares-Irlen Syndrome is named after Olive Meares and Helen Irlen. They were the first to describe the disorder and to discover a successful treatment using coloured sheets of plastic and coloured glasses. Meares-Irlen Syndrome is not the same as dyslexia, although many individuals who have reading difficulties also have Meares-Irlen Syndrome.
Before I started using the overlays, the words moved and I just couldn't really read, and I didn't like reading, I didn't like going to school because of the teachers thinking that I do what I learn. Really annoying. Ever since I've got the overlays, they're brilliant.
Before I used the overlay, it was really embarrassing in class because all the words moved about a lot, and everybody kind of looked at you because you took so long reading aloud.
The writing was all fuzzy and I couldn't read it at all. And without the overlay sheet, it was like a puzzle. I had to work out every single word.
The symptoms of Meares-Irlen Syndrome are thought to arise from the activity of nerve cells at the back of the head in the visual cortex. These cells fire too strongly and cause other cells to fire inappropriately. This is only one explanation, and we don't really have a good explanation yet. But we do know that a lot of children suffer from Meares-Irlen Syndrome. We've studied more than 600 children, testing them individually, in more than 20 schools. And we find that from one school to another, the proportion is always similar. At least one child in every 5 has some symptoms of the syndrome, and 1 in 20 are really quite severely affected. So that when we use a coloured overlay in those children, their speed of reading increases by more than 25%.
As children progress through school, the books they are required to read become more difficult to see. The print on the pages becomes smaller and more closely spaced. Also, children are required to work for longer periods, which increases the effects of the visual stress.
Visual stress is common in people with migraine, and we know that the children who find coloured overlays helpful usually have migraine in the family. Now, we know that people with migraine find striped patterns particularly unpleasant. Small text can look like a striped pattern. Of course, we don't have a good explanation at this stage, but we do know that colour can improve reading, and the colour of an overlay has to be chosen precisely to suit each individual.
First, you need a pack of coloured overlays. Sheets of coloured plastic from stationers are not adequate. There are several packs of overlays on the market. Before buying a pack, check that it samples a wide range of colours. The shade should be light enough so you can place one overlay on top of another without the combination getting too dark. Combining overlays in this way allows you to make stronger colours when needed. There are several different ways you can test using overlays, but all find the best colour by a process of elimination. In one method shown here, a booklet containing pages of identical text covered by a range of coloured overlays is used to present the different colours. A sheet of the text with no overlay is placed beside the booklet, and each colour in the booklet is compared with this sheet of text. The child is asked which page is the clearest and most comfortable to look at.
That one.
If the coloured booklet page is better, then an overlay of this colour is placed over the sheet of text. The next colour in the booklet is then compared with this. The sheet of text is always covered by the best colour so far. You do not have to use a booklet. You can use individual overlays instead, comparing each in turn with the best one so far. Whatever method you use, the purpose is to find the best overlay. Sometimes the best overlay reduces the distortions of the print, but does not get rid of them completely. If so, you can see whether a stronger colour is helpful. Stronger colours are made with two overlays, one on top of the other. If the best overlay was green, for example, you would try adding another green on top, or a similar colour to green, such as yellow or blue. You only need to try similar colours.
Many children are unaware that the distortions they see are abnormal, and they believe failure at school is their fault.
I couldn't read, so then I'd get stressed, chuck the book across the classroom, and then I'd get told off for it, or I wasn't going to do the work because the teacher wouldn't help and they thought that I didn't want to work, which I did want to work, which I did definitely want to work, but as which I couldn't read the writing, and then if I kept looking at it, my eyes would get sorer and sorer and sorer.
It was English last lesson. We had to do reading and read out aloud to the class, and I felt really embarrassed. So I said to the teacher I felt really sick and got my mum to come pick me up and take me home.
If an overlay is going to be helpful, it would usually increase reading speed. The simplest way of measuring the increase is to use the rate of reading test. This test uses only common words such as see, the, look, dog. All these words are familiar to poor readers. The words are presented in random order, so they have to be seen to be read and cannot be guessed from the context. Because the text is meaningless, the speed does not improve much with practice once the child is familiar with the task. The student is asked to read aloud as quickly as possible for 1 minute. The total number of words correctly read provides the measure of reading speed. You can give the test once with the overlay and then again without, and compare the speed. Children who show an increase in reading speed with the overlay are far more likely to continue using it and find it beneficial. Children often need to be reminded to use their overlays, but should not be forced to use them if they feel the overlays are no longer useful. Children who find overlays helpful often benefit from using coloured paper when writing. They should be allowed to choose the shade of colour they find most comfortable. If their writing is untidy, pupils may benefit from being allowed to write on every other line. The spacing will help them to see more clearly what they have written. It may be helpful if children are allowed to choose the colour of chalks or pens that they find most easy to see. They can then be responsible for giving these to their teacher.
If a child clearly benefits from a coloured overlay and uses it for more than a school term, it's an indication that their vision really does need to be checked. They may have something wrong with their binocular vision, which can be treated using conventional methods, or they may find coloured glasses useful. Coloured glasses are easier to use than an overlay. They need to be prescribed whilst the eyes are adapted to colour, and this can be done using the intuitive colorimeter. The colour that's best for glasses is not the same as the colour that's best for overlays.
These are my glasses, and as you can see they're blue, and I think they're more convenient for me because I can see what the teacher's writing on the whiteboard, whereas with the overlay I could only see what was on a piece of paper.
In many children, the signs of visual fatigue are obvious. They rub their eyes, they squint and so on. But in others, there are no signs at all. You'd have no idea that they had a visual difficulty with reading.
These 13 tales of real crimes and criminals passed down.
And in some children, their reading can actually be quite good. And it's not until an overlay goes on the page that they realise that they've had this visual difficulty and their reading takes off.
The facts of the story. The second section, Do You Know, invites consideration of the certain implications in the story. or calls on the student to answer from his or her experience.
The teachers used to think that I just didn't try hard enough, and they used to keep me after classes to talk to me about I should be making more progress. And so upsetting, I used to come home to Mum and I was like crying because I was so upset about it.
Well, the first thing is that most of the pupils are so pleased that somebody has noticed that they have a problem, and this problem can be solved, that their self-esteem is boosted. Sometimes that is enough to get them reading. They have been put off reading because they feel wheezy or makes their eyes sting or whatever, and this plastic just helps them to be able to read normally and maybe feel like the other pupils in the classroom.
Of all the many, many problems that the world has to face, when we think of something which can be solved by a comparatively easy and cheap means, this is really something to take hold of and eradicate.
My mum calls me down to my bedroom, "Oh, come on, tea's ready." I'm like, no, I don't want to put the book down because I really enjoy reading now and I really did miss out.
I can hear the difference myself when I'm reading. I read a lot more fluently.
Since I've been using the blue overlays, it's helped me read more, which is great because I love reading.
I love reading in class. I do it as much as possible, reading it aloud to everyone because I really find it really fun to read. And I like reading now. And it's much better because I don't feel as embarrassed at all because I can read really well and I can read much better than other people now. Imagine everything you know stops dead. Imagine winds don't blow. Imagine waves like oily skin and clouds not moving, tissue thin. Imagine heat trapped in the sun. Imagine blood which cannot run. Imagine heartbeats marking time in time and no longer part of time. Imagine everything you see beginning endlessly.